Machine in a trance. Understanding our lust for digital revolution. What are the forces prompting digital revolution? Why is it a contemporary trend? Digital revolution carries a sense of disruption. CD sales are falling. The number of peer-to-peer is increasing. So is the number of long-distance calls by VoIP. Ordinary people stop obeying the law. This is the revolutionary aspect. There seems to be a divorce between the machine and the law. The question that surges is, what looks disruptive once the technique is used by the power? Why does power shoot its own foot? To understand it, we must first clarify what is a machine. The machine promotes the illusion that the world has its own identity. It seduces to make it all appear objectively. It makes the world behave as if it was words. And where we remain in subjection position, the one who is dominated is part of a seduction, a form of pleasure, the excessive pleasure. That is to believe that there is the objective world, the reality, an externality. It is the body that supports this externality. The body supports the idea of an objective world and reality. In the West, the reality is equivalent to the question, how to invent the universal. What is so seducing to the point to get bodies to be mobilized? Fantasy produces reality. The Western fundamental fantasy is the universal fantasy. Take its genealogy. For the Greeks, ordering bodies implies the living presence of the sovereign. A rhetoric of performance recognized by the polis. In Judaism, the law is based on immemorial tradition, no longer the live performative presence of the sovereign, but the law that represents them and their masters. Christianity transforms the Jewish law, establishing that we are all brothers by a command coming from a transcendental subject. Christianity sets up a particular fantasy of universal with the following elements: the universal, the particular, the singular. The universal is the complete permutation of each particular element. The particular is the gathering of all brothers who recognize themselves within a whole, where they can be interchanged and different, but recognizable to each other. The singular is the element that does not fit in the set of possible exchanges among the particular elements. It is the outlaw, the element that is feared and desired by the universal arrangement. The particular repeats itself as a recognizable difference in the possible arrangements of the universal. A machine repeats the particular in a universal. It can be applied to the idea of repetition. Retaking the idea that to have a machine you need to repeat. A particular repetition is only possible if an externality grants it an identity. This externality is what makes the universal possible. The Western body has excessive pleasure assembling repeating series, and machines allowed passivity to this pleasure. While the machines do the work over again, we enjoy thinking this repetition job is done by the machine themselves, without the labor of our bodies. The externality is virtual. Repetition of what failed within the singular and the irreversible is the repetition of the real. the repetition of what is intelligible. Within the particular, and within the successive, is the repetition of reality. The real causes anguish, while reality causes stillness. The real is avoided and secretly desired by the Western universal. The modern machine meets the real by the eruption of nonsense. By meeting a disruptive principle of universal order, this meeting promises that sense will prevail. The contemporary machine, Turing's machine, radically universalized reality by inventing a universal machine that can emulate any other, turning all things into information. That is to say, a particularity of the universal game. The singular element becomes the irreversibility of time, and no more the sense. So when everything is converged, the nature, the social, the human body, in a particular code of a universal structure, we try to deal with the anguish of the radical irreversibility of the singular, of the irreversible, the mortal and sexual, even if it means that we must transform every representation in the nonsense monotony of the binary code. What is the final place of the code? The stock market, of course. A place where it is possible to transform the flow of information in a logic of identities. Purchase, sale, exchange, more, less, abundance and scarcity. It is a place where it is possible to mix human DNA and frog DNA, or even do DNA patenting. There is a hybridism. There aren't problems. There is no ethical conflict. Aesthetic horror. If we are all brothers, if everything is possible, then we are back to Christianity, a radical Christianity. It is Christianity 2.0. The digital revolution is the radicalization of Christianity, and secretly wishes to place the real outside the law. This involves assigning to contemporary civilization a desire for the universalization that can only be sated with the outbreak of deadly games, putting ourselves in the paradox of evenness with the help of democracy and technology. The world's most enlightened achievements, we wish, secretly, the only element able let us advance even more, the mortal irreversibility of time and body's swoon. The end of the art creation of possible allowing practicing the pedagogy of the real, the singular dethroned of its horror, to possess a new fuel statute for contemporary machine. This is the Western fundamentalism that does not find any other possible discourse in the battle for the human soul.